So in Bootstrap form elements, we learned how to use form controls, form groups. So this is a form. We learned about how to design the form elements and form groups. For forms, what are the controls available? What are the class required? We designed some examples. While working with these, one more option regularly used is we generally important option called Bootstrap input group. How to use Bootstrap input groups. These are used with mostly form combination. With combination, we use these input groups. Technically, input group, how to use. Let's one example how we can define input group. So for attributes, what are the available for the input groups? So generally to design input groups, where you can see these input groups, most for example, suppose when we look at Amazon like sites, you can see the top here all is a drop down and is a text box, and this is a search button. And text box actually input. Usually when we design those three things, what happens, the looks and this text box looks separate and search button looks separate. Now all together is defined as input group. We can use as input group, right? So how to define this input group? What are the various classes for the input group? Means all the controls looks like one group instead of separating from each other. So they looks like one control actually, but actually there are three controls here. A drop down is present, a text box is present, and a button is present. But they look like one search box, right? Actually, there are three controls. This is possible by designing this input group. Generally, what are the classes we use for this input group? Let's see. What are the basic classes for input group? To design such input group, so actually input group is used to group a set of controls and display as one element. However, all controls are individually handled. handled, right? That is what actually input group is. And what are the classes we need for input group? So bootstrap classes, bootstrap classes for input group are, so we have some classes, class name and description. Few important classes are there. One class is we are having a dot input group, okay, and input group prepend and input group append, input group prepend, input group append, and input group text, input group text. So these are important options. So these are the major ones to design everything in an input group. Actually, input group, it is group of controls. Prepend means it is defined for prefix control. So that means prefix control means you can say left side control. Append means it is used for suffix control. It is used for suffix. So this will be right side. Text is used for input text. So it is for displaying input group text as prepend or append. As prepend or append, you can give some text. Actually, you can define some text. So generally, how to use this input group? Let's see a few examples how we can use this input group. Let's see. Actually, the appearance for input group, how it will take. Here I will import the files. So in Bootstrap examples, input group .html, we will link the files. Currently we need only in the head section, we need Bootstrap. Link relation is equal to style sheet and href is equal to node modules bootstrap dist css bootstrap.cs, and we will link another relation is equal to style sheet and href is equal to fonts. In the fonts css all.css. This is font awesome, right? Yeah. We don't need any jQuery for that. Just Bootstrap CSS is enough. So let's keep a div and a class container. So class container. And this is the, yeah. Now in this we will keep some contents. Suppose we will see different options how to design. I will keep a heading. Suppose input group append. How to use input group append? I will show you how to use input group append. Append means right side. The input group will come. So then how to design? So let's see. I am creating a div. Okay. I am creating a div. First, I will just design without input group and show you how it will appear actually. So here in the div, I'm keeping, so input type is equal to email and class is equal to form control. Okay, input email and form control. So that is that for email text box, right? So here I will keep a placeholder. So email ID, email ID. Okay. Now after that text box, I'm adding another div, and I will keep a span, and here I will say some gmail.com at the net gmail.com. That's how I define. Okay. Usually, once observe how it appears, you can see it appears like this: email ID, and in the next line, it comes like this. Our intention is gmail.com is standard, only ID will be changing. If you want to change the email ISO, you can do, that's your wish, right? But I want this append means suffix is standard, right? Suffix is standard. Okay. Now what we will do is we will give this div contains both controls, span and email. For this div, I will use a class called input group. Input group is the class. Okay. This input group class contains this gmail.com as append. Append means suffix. Suffix means right side to this email. Then here we will put this class as input group append. That means this will be suffix, and this is the text. That means we use the class as input group text, input group text. Now I will save this, and once refresh and see, all these three look like this now. Now you can see how it changed its appearance. You see, this is a text box, and right side we are using append. Then see, it looks like it's a combined text, and it will display at gmail.com. So user will enter only here some Gmail at some NIT like this. So we can use different size actually. So input group, we have options like LG and SM. SM is for small input group. Then I need to change all of them to SM only. Append SM, text SM. You can put small, large like options. So we have this one. It will be like this. So you can use input group size. Size means size you can control by using input group SM or LG. Similarly, input group prepend SM or LG like this. Input group append SM or LG. Input group text SM or LG. Like this, we can put different sizes for all of them. This is an option of using input group append actually. Append means right side will come. How input group prepend will come? I think you can tell now how input group prepend will come. Let's design. I will use another heading. Input group prepend. How input group prepend will come. Suppose I am writing like this. I will put a div. So div will have a class called input group. Input group, right? Right. Now after defining input group, now what we need to do is prefix. How do we define? So we have to use a div, and this class we have to give as input group prepend. We have to use input group prepend. In that I will put here a span, and this class will be input group text. It will be input group text. Here I will write ampersand hash 8377 semicolon. That will put a currency symbol. Okay, after that span, I will keep, so input type is equal to text, class is equal to form control, and here I will keep a placeholder. So enterprise, right, like this. And here you can see this time input group append will be there, prepend will be there. Prepend means it will give left side. So append means it will give right side. So we have prepend and we have append. Append and prepend. Append means right side. Prepend means left side. Prefix and suffix. It looks like a group. Width, height, everything you can adjust if you kept in a div and in a container. You know that. Now, how to design like Amazon, how to design like this Amazon, you can tell now. You need both prefix and suffix. We need both prefix and suffix. Prepend and append. So this prefix and suffix, we need both of them. Both prefix and suffix we need. That means, for example, I want to design another, I will keep a heading. So prepend and append. I want both prepend and append now. Then see what we are doing here. Let's add a div. So class as input group. Okay. In this we have a div. This class will be input group prepend. This is input group prepend. Okay. Now in this we will keep a span, and we will keep the class as input group text. Okay. Now in this input group text span, this is prepend. Okay, I will add another div. So this will be input group. This will be class input group append. It will be input group append, and it will have a span, and span will have a class as input group append. This is input group text. Okay. Now this input group prepend and input group append, between these two we will keep a text box. Input type is equal to text, class is equal to form control. That is the text box. That means we have a text box. Before the text box prepend, after the text box append. That is the basic thing. Now in this span, I want a select. I want a select will have an option. We know all, and we will keep an option as electronics. We will keep an option like footwear. Like this we will define, right? That are the options defined here, right? 1 second. Okay, so we have a drop down. We have a drop down in the append area, prepend area. It can have a lot of things. Okay, similarly, right side in the append area, we are having a button. For this button, I will keep a span inside the button, and I will use class as FA. And FA, we have search. We have FA search. That is font awesome, right? It is font awesome search. So you can see here in the design, now it looks like this. Now we have left and right these search boxes which contains those drop downs. Usually what happens is, suppose instead of the span, right, input group text class, suppose I given that to the select input group text to the select. Actually it is a control, then it will be displayed inside it like this. It will be displayed inside it. If I display, so input group text here for this button, input group text for this button, instead of that I given here input group text for that, then it will display like this, right? Colors you can change, but I want like a good input group. So better what you have to do is you keep this inside the span. So span, okay, then you can see there is a span bringing it, and you keep this also inside a span and keep these controls inside the span. So span, suppose I am using, because select and all use form control. If I use form control as a class for that, then it will be like this. So we will not use any controls, especially when displaying inside the input group, it will disturb. So just we are using a general select drop down. Colors and all we can change for that. Actually, this button, suppose we are using a button, so here we are using, so class as suppose BTN, and BTN some light button we are applying, and you can see its appearance changes. So we should not do that. So form, whenever you are using the controls inside input group, don't give form controls. Actually we can put pictures, we can put background. So suppose I said class as BG light, that is the class background light, then it will display background light like this. Buttons and text boxes appearance inside them we can change. We can remove the borders for them, buttons, right? And actually we can remove the button and put an image also, such like image boxes we can define there. But already we have font awesome, we can use font awesome. So, or if you want to change the button, you can put a style here temporarily. Style, suppose I defined as background color as suppose light gray, that is the background color. So, or if you want like Amazon, we have a different background color. For that we can keep that. So suppose I am just giving roughly like background color light gray, and border, so I am defining, so border suppose 1 pixel solid, and gray, so light gray, so that is also light gray color for that border, and it will look like this. You can see its appearance will be like this. Usually what we can do is we can remove as a button here. We can remove as a button. We can keep an ordinary div, and that div also can have this search button. On the div also we can write click events and all. It's not necessary that you use only button, right? Usually we can use an anchor appearances also for that. Generally I can even put, instead of button, I can put an anchor. And for that anchor we can give that appearance, and on click it can search, it can display. So I am keeping that in an anchor. That symbol is given in an anchor. Then it will be like this normal. You can see right side. So it can work. We can change the appearance. We can change the backgrounds. So according to our requirements. So just you need to understand how to keep prefix and suffix. I told you about how to design drop down for navigation. Usually how to design drop down for navigation. Here I can use a drop down instead of select. I can keep different backgrounds for that, right? For this drop down. It depends on so how you want to design it and how do you want to place. So your user can select a category, search box, and this search button, right? So these are important things. Later we can implement functionality for them, but this is how we generally design. So input group, mostly input group have prepend, input group have append. Now sometimes one doubt regularly comes. So if I want generally prepend and append is used for various occasions also. For example, so see, I am using this. This is for. I will copy this. This is for currency, na? So what I am doing is I am adding. So another heading. So prepend and append, and I will add a div. You see here. So beside this text box, you can observe that here you can see this span is prepend, displaying a currency symbol. After the text box, I will use another div and a class as input group. Input group as append. Input group as append. In that span I will put a class called input group text. We can keep input group text, and here I will put some .00. That is the input group text. Then you can see its appearance will be like this now. You can see its appearance. Enterprise. This is the left side, that is rupee. Right side, this is different. This is the input group text. So how we are defining the input group text? Actually, input group text. So whenever you are writing foreground or background, suppose I am going to style. And in the style, I am writing input group text and background color. Suppose I defined as dark cyan and color as white. I defined like this, and I will refresh. Everywhere it will change. You can override that. That depends on your requirement. That's it. That means depending on your requirement, you can override. Already we know that Bootstrap contents can be overridden. By default, it is having gray color. It's not mandatory that we have to maintain the same color, right? We can change. We can change. For input group text, so a different background color, so a different foreground color. We can keep different appearances for them. That's what we can manage for input group. Now, sometimes some people have a doubt. If I want anything in the middle, so can I have two appends, two prepends, right? You can have two appends, two prepends also, multiple. Actually, we don't use two prepend or two append. So we use two input group text side by side actually. So two input groups side by side. That is the right way actually to define, right? So how we can define? So let's see. Actually, we can give input group prepend append. So if they want multiple, then we can configure multiple text only required. Multiple means I will show you here. So let's go here. So let's add another option. I'm removing, this is color, okay, fine. I'm adding one more heading. This is multiple prepend. Similarly, multiple append also. Multiple prepend div. So we have a class, we have an input group, and another div. So we have input group class, input group prepend, and here we put a span, and in this span we are defining, suppose first name, and this is having a class input group text. We are defining input group text, and we will use another span, and that also uses a class input group text, and this is a last name, and after this prepend we will keep the text here. After the prepend we will give a text box here. After the prepend we will have a text box. Input type is equal to text, class is equal to form control, and that is the text box. And you can see that this time you can see multiple prepends are there. First name and last name you have to define like this. There can be multiple prepend, there can be multiple append, there can be multiple prepend and append options, right? Now important is when you are designing the drop downs, when you are designing the buttons, we need to create drop downs and buttons which are good for Bootstrap, right? Already we know Bootstrap drop down. You can put that Bootstrap drop down and you can use that Bootstrap drop down, right? So then it will display in a Bootstrap drop down style. Actually, we don't prefer to use select inside these input groups. If you want a drop down, you can put a Bootstrap drop down. That will give a easy appearance, good appearance for drop downs. Buttons also same. So sometimes the question is asked is, can I put in the middle if I want, then how to do? So do I need prepend or append like options? One doubt will come. Sometimes we need anything in the middle, then how to configure that? That is the regular doubt comes sometimes. Usually how we can design such things, actually. Suppose usually in order to design such things, what we have to do, go here. That means suppose in the middle you want to add something for that. I will keep a heading heading. So custom group. Okay. And how you actually add a custom group here? How do we add a custom group here? So let's see how we can add custom group here. Custom group is nothing but actually you can put anywhere. So we have a div and we have a class as an input group. Input group, that is the class. Okay. Here we are adding a text box. That means here we are defining a text box. Input type is equal to text and class is equal to form control. That is the class. Okay. And here we are adding some option like span, or we will just put here a div. Okay, div. So here we will use input group as append, because after text box we are keeping it. And here we will put a span as input group. So this is the class input group text. We are defining input group text. Here I will give at the net. After that I will give text box. Input type is equal to text. Again class is equal to form control. Our intention is to keep it in the middle. And I refresh here, so you can see it is in the middle. It is also fine. So no problem in that. I will remove the traditional overriding here, what I have done. Right, I will remove the traditional overriding here. So just remove this style. So that is just to tell customizing. So you can see this is the traditional appearance here. That means user can enter anything here. Anything here. We can use in between also. That means many times doubt will come, like if I want anything in the middle, so then how we can add. So you can use so append or prepend or anything. You can, because in the middle it will not care about you are using append or prepend. You have to just use any one, either append or prepend. Then you can keep your controls beside it to keep in a correct way. And important while designing and working with the buttons. So multiple also you can configure that you generally know how to handle that. Right. Suppose I want to design something like a custom file upload like control. Then we can design a screen which will have prepend and append and text box like options. For example, so we will have, suppose I will show you where we can give multiple here. Okay. I will keep another heading. So that means buttons. Usually while designing the buttons, one regular issue comes here. That is button appearance, how to display the buttons in a correct form. The general problems we get. Usually the best suitable for the buttons, you can keep a button outline style so that they will fit for prepend or append. For prepend or append, so you can just define directly a button instead of using text. Let's see how we can give that. That means here above, when we were using buttons, we have some problem in button. How to keep the buttons in a correct form? For example, see how we can keep the buttons in a correct form. Let's try that. So let's save this. And how we can keep the buttons? Let's see. What we do here is we are adding div. So class as form input group. Okay, input group. Okay. Again, we are adding a div inside this, and we will have a class called. So here we have input group prepend. Okay. Here we will directly put a button, and for this button we will give as uh, your photo, your photo. Okay, and here I will define a text box. I will define a text box. So input type is equal to text, and here class is equal to form control, and here we will put a placeholder. So choose file. Okay, and beside that I will use another div. So class as input group append, and here again we will keep a button. We'll keep a button and say upload. Upload is the button. So later we can. This is not functionality, just design important for us. Usually, if I do like this, I am not using any input group text. Then usually the buttons will be like this. You can see you have this appearance. That means your photo, and the text box will come in this way. In this way, button is correctly placed, and right side also correctly placed. And for buttons we can give the class. So for the button we are using class as suppose btn, and btn outline secondary. Okay, that is the button. And here also we will give class as btn and btn outline secondary. Okay, and you can see the button's appearance will be like this. You can see now the buttons have a correct appearance because this is outline style. That is outline style. That will correctly fit. That will correctly fit for these buttons. That will correctly fit for these buttons. So we can use that outline style, and we can keep the text inside that. So we can keep it in a correct appearance style. The same thing we have to use for the searching like options what we have done. If I want to deal with buttons, so here right side you can see I want to keep it like a button with symbol. Then usually for the search box I just given an anchor there. I told you that we will see buttons later, but here you can see instead of doing all this, we don't need a span here. Directly in the append, what you put here, a button you put here. Button will have a span, so that span is just for class as FA, and FA search. FA search is that icon, and this button is having a class as BTN, and BTN outline secondary. That is the button class we are defining. No text is defined. Then you can see its appearance will be like this now. Its appearance will be like this. Of course, its colors and also we can change. So that means you saw the Amazon people, they have BTN outline warning actually. Warning style for Amazon. Then it will come like this. This is what actually the button style given for that Amazon like options. And how to keep the drop down correctly. So don't use select for drop down. Here design your Bootstrap drop down. Already Bootstrap drop down I told you how to create Bootstrap drop down. You can design the Bootstrap drop down and keep it. And you can keep the buttons in this way instead of defining as text, right? Instead of defining a text. Even here also, when you put, if you are keeping for navigation, put it. Otherwise, remove this input group text and don't use input group text. Just put a drop down there. Put a drop down there. And you can see that it will be like this now. It will be better. It will be better for displaying the content. It will be better. And you can see here user can correctly select the drop down. Here options will be correct. Suppose if you try to use the controls like class as form control, because for drop down I told you form control option is there. Now you can see it will not be good for form control because it little bit okay. So you can see it will come like this. But we want this button to be combined with this text box. That's the reason always prefer using either without that effect you keep it, or use the drop downs coming from Bootstrap. That will be having a correct appearance for you. This is also fine. It will give a drop down to you, and this drop user can select. So this is general how we can keep the combination of buttons, drop downs, and how we can keep the input group left, right, in between. Also you can keep an input group, right? So if there are multiple, how we can configure the multiple input groups, right? These are all the options to work with the input group. So technically, so whenever we are designing the forms, so we use these input groups very much. If you are using the controls instead of text, directly use the controls. That is enough, right? That is enough. So for displaying, okay, yeah, that is all about the forms and input group. Example, you can take this example. I will copy this example, and this example contains all of them. Means all the options, attributes, user. And one important is note is you can customize the appearance of input group text. So how you can do, we can put a style. In the style we can write input group text, and here we can put some background color. By default it comes with some background color, right? Some color. So we put some color. So some color like this. We can customize that by adding the style. All others also can be customized. Mostly it is recommended to handle with these options. So how to define. So this is an important option, how we can define the input groups. Next, after understanding the input groups, so in the Bootstrap we have another option is about list group. That means in Bootstrap how to define list group. This is a very simple option. Actually, list group is used for displaying an ordered list or unordered list. When you are displaying ordered list and unordered list, so in order to display them in a block style, usually for menus, especially when you are designing, then it is important to display with the side by side, so one below another, like because you are designing for toolbars. Then list group provides some important properties, classes, which you can apply and keep the appearance in a correct way. Let's see one simple option. Generally there are classes few, but it is simple to handle, because especially when we are designing list groups. So when we are designing the list groups, I will copy this head section. List group means for ordered list, unordered list, we use it. So for list group, for ordered and unordered list, we use that technique actually. In the head section, in the body, let's put a div and class as a container, okay, and inside this. So here we are adding some heading as list group, and here we are adding an unordered list with a list item. So some electronics. So okay, like some footwear, like some fashion. All these options we have designed. Now usually you know that its appearance will be normal like this. Appearance will be normal like this. What Bootstrap provides is, if you are displaying these list groups for a toolbar or menu like, then we can use some predefined classes. That means Bootstrap provides classes to display ordered and unordered list as a group. And for that, what are the classes we are having? Classes like, we are having list group class, and we are having list group item class. We can use active, so we can use disabled, which are very commonly used for list groups. And we can even use list group directions also. So list group direction also. So how to define list group directions? So list group direction means, so we can put as a list group, it is a style, list group flush style. We can even put list group horizontal. So that means items are displayed side by side, right? So these are list group, different sizes, a small size, large size. That means we have list group horizontal, SM, small, or LG, large. Like, we can apply the background colors and others options. We can display with badges, height, widths. There are so many points. So I will tell you different templates we can design and we can use them. I will show you that. Actually, so if you want to do for unordered list, we have to use a class list group. Okay. In the list group, the item is given as list group item. Every item, that means every item is list item. So class as a list group item. Every item is defined as list group item. Then you can see the items will be displayed in this way. So we have electronics, we have footwear. Suppose I want footwear active, then we can give active, and it's the footwear active like this. We can put background colors and all. Suppose I am giving list, so I am defining as a list group flush style, then it will be like this. That means it will display flush style, right? So we are just using list group flush style. So list group flush style, just without any borders it will display, right? By default we have list group, so without it will display. Special we use this list groups to keep in a correct way. Width and height you can adjust for using styles later, but important is this can contain text, or it can contain links, anything. That means it can even contain a collection of buttons. Suppose here this is anchor, so, and href, that is electronics. So this is anchor, so href, so, and this is hash, this is for footwear. So that means you can group, it will get those links, right? How the appearance you want. So the next one, so I remove the active, then it will display normal. Right? So height, width, and alignments, how we can configure. Mostly with JavaScript also, we can create a combination, like when user clicks on that particular, so we can navigate to any specific, we can get that and we can display. So without using our frames, you learned about iframes and frames to bring the content and display a same page beside it. Then such a design we can achieve by using a combination of list groups and jQuery also. That means it will have a little bit jQuery related attributes. We can use those jQuery attributes and make them function with a simple example. We have a JavaScript behavior for this list groups that we will see tomorrow how to design that example with the list group. And 2-3 more options are there. Mostly by tomorrow, day after tomorrow, we will finish them. Then we can start JavaScript now. After we finish this Bootstrap, I will 1-2 days I will conduct a session of practical. So that means I give you some tasks. You have to try to do them and show me. If you are facing any problems, you can install TeamViewer in your computer. I will access and I will see whatever the problems are there. I will give you some tasks now after we finish Bootstrap. Once we successfully work with those tasks, then we will go for working with JavaScript. We will learn about JavaScript, jQuery basics now. We will start with that. Tomorrow we will continue with that. List group related notes I am not uploading. So others I am uploading because list group we will discuss tomorrow detailedly. Up to this only just the notes I will upload. Tomorrow we will detailedly discuss about list group with examples. Okay, thank you. You have any doubts, you can ping me your doubts.